What is fear-driven kindness and why it's bad for you? What if I told you that not all kindness is the same? But not only that, there's a specific type of kindness that stifles your growth, impairs your relationships, and harms everyone in the long run. Let me start with an example of what I mean from a viral story I found online about kindness. One evening, my mother made dinner after a hard day's work. She put a plate of eggs, salad, and burnt toast in front of my father. I immediately noticed the burnt toast, and I was waiting to see if he was going to complain about it. But my father started to eat them, smiling, and asked me how I spent my day at school. My mom apologized to my dad for the burnt toast. I will never forget his response to her. "Honey, I love burnt toast." Later, when I went to bed and my dad came over to kiss me goodnight, I asked him if he really liked the burnt toast, and he hugged me and said, "Your mother had a difficult day and she's really tired. She went out of her way to prepare this meal for us. Why blame her and hurt her? Burnt toast never hurt anyone, but words can be very painful. We have to know how to appreciate what others do for us, even if it's not perfect, because it's the intention to do well that counts, and no one is perfect." So there are at least two obvious lessons from the story. One, words can hurt, and two, we have to appreciate others. In fact, they're so important, the author stated them outright in the last two sentences. Most readers seem to get the superficial lesson. Be kind. And that's a fantastic message. But sometimes with these stories, you gotta dig a little deeper to get more out of them. And if we dive below the surface of this story, we'll learn why we want to live our lives driven by courage, not fear. Not reckless courage, but courage driven by principles. So we align our courageous acts with what we value most in life. For example, why didn't the father tell the mother, "I appreciate you preparing the meal for us"? I mean, he told his child about appreciation, so I find it ironic that he didn't express it to his wife. I mean, think about it. He could have been honest about his feeling of appreciation towards his wife, but lied about liking burnt toast instead. In the real world, there are people who are so afraid of hurting another person's feelings, they'll do almost anything to avoid it, like lying. And between honesty and lying, honesty is harder because it exposes who you really are. It leaves you vulnerable. So being honest takes courage. Lying is easier, so it's easier to default to it. Lying is even easier when there are no obvious consequences for it. And of course, there's that age-old saying, supposedly by Theodore Roosevelt, "Nothing in the world is worth having or worth doing unless it means effort, pain, and difficulty." The problem here is a general lack of courage that means an unwillingness to hurt others, but it also means an unwillingness to do the right thing. It's the same source of fear. In the father's case, it translates to a lack of courage to be vulnerable, and therefore honest about his appreciation for the meal. The point is, his kindness was driven by fear, not courage. But vulnerability is necessary for deeper relationships. According to psychologist Karen Young, when we close down our vulnerability, we are shielded from hurt, but we are also shielded from love, intimacy, and connection. They come to us through the same door. When we close it to one, we close it to all. A fear-driven life will also stunt your growth. I'm a software developer. I get feedback on my code and give feedback on my teammates' code every day. It's how we prevent bugs. There are also ways for my teammates and I to learn what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong so we can grow as developers, as professionals, and as people. If we stop ourselves from giving feedback out of fear we might hurt others, we're only hurting them and ourselves in the long run. So why does it hurt us if we don't give feedback? Well, because giving feedback is a skill. It requires tact, which is a skill of giving feedback without hurting others. And like all skills, if we don't practice it, we don't get better at it. Most of us suck at giving feedback, but we all have to start somewhere. The key is to learn how to give better feedback each time so we can improve. This also means we need to have compassion for those giving us feedback. What they say may be hard to hear, but that doesn't necessarily mean they want to harm you. They are also practicing the art of giving feedback. The sooner we all get over the fear of hurting one another, giving and receiving feedback, the sooner we can all learn and grow together. The sooner we can all win together. This doesn't mean being reckless about it. We should still strive to be kind with tact. It just means we shouldn't hold ourselves back out of fear. There's a subtle difference between not wanting to step on people's toes and fearing stepping on people's toes. Remember in the story when the father said, "Honey, I love burnt toast." Sure, burnt toast is benign if you ignore the long-term risk of cancer from consuming extra carbon, but what if the mother smoked cigarettes after a hard day? Would it be as benign for the father to say, "Honey, I love secondhand smoke"? To be fair, the father seems to be aware he lacks tact, and he's trying to preserve the mother's feelings. A more reasonable response would have been, "It's fine, honey," because a good way to avoid blame and pain is to focus on the product, in this case the toast, when giving feedback rather than on the person. When we live with courage, our kindness will be driven by courage too. We open ourselves up, which leaves us vulnerable, but that allows the kindness of others to reach us on a deeper level. We can't open ourselves up to love without also opening ourselves up to pain. But openness is how we form deeper connections with others, and it's how we grow as individuals. Let me know down in the comments what you think about kindness. How do you find the courage you need to be kind? Hey, the world needs more of it, and I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for watching.